coming up on City Spotlight. It's our first new episode of 2025 as we continue Season 11 of City Spotlight. In this episode, we'll feature two communities. We'll start things off in Sullivan, talking Sullivan Schools with Sullivan Schools Superintendent Dr. Ted Walk. Ted will tell us about the current school year in Sullivan, plus new curriculum in Sullivan Schools, and we'll have the latest on the construction of the new Sullivan High School. Then we'll head to Altamont and have a feature on the Dr. Charles M. Wright House. We'll learn about the legacy of the Wright House and what it means to the community of Altamont. It's another two-community episode as we feature Sullivan and Altamont next on City Spotlight.
It's almost impossible to imagine life without internet today. It keeps us connected to work, school, and loved ones, no matter where they are. Fidium Fiber Internet now serves over 1 million locations, providing reliable, consistent service that keeps these connections strong. From vibrant cities to quiet rural areas, fiber broadband is a key driver of economic growth. Fidium is dedicated to supporting communities and enhancing lives through this essential technology. Learn more at fidiumfiber.com.
And hello and welcome to another edition of City Spotlight. As you can see, we are taping on location for this episode, our first taping here in 2025. We're taping here at the end of January of 2025, and we are back in Sullivan talking Sullivan Schools for the first of an episode featuring two communities. And in this first segment on Sullivan, we welcome back to the program familiar guest, Dr. Ted Walk, Superintendent of Sullivan Schools. Ted, great to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Great to be here with Ted, and we are taping for the first time inside Sullivan Elementary School. We'll talk about why we are taping inside Sullivan Elementary School, but first, Ted, glad to have you back on. Last had Ted on spring of 2023, so just shy of 2 years, and I just said Dr. Ted Walk, so tell us about that. You're now a doctor.
I finished my PhD. I do thank EIU for my first two master's and specialist degree. Went to Indiana State and finished my PhD probably a couple months after we actually had the filming. So
very good. Yeah, a lot has transpired since we last taped, and there is a lot to talk about. Obviously, there's some major construction going on outside here at the Sullivan Schools in the high school, middle school area. We'll talk about that here in just a second. But with respect to the physical work, Ted, tell us how the school year is going. We're in the middle of the 2024-25 school year.
We are. Very good school year right now, obviously, and construction plays a big role, but we've been very pleased with how our students and staff have all adapted to transitions. A lot of things are a little bit different. We're sharing some classroom spaces, but the most important thing is I think most of our students really don't notice that much of a difference. We're in year 2 of the transition and it's going really well.
I was going to ask you that, and right before we started taping, I had a guess that why we were taping here, and so you've been relocated to the elementary school for a while. How is that? Talk about a little bit more, elaborate more. You kind of answered my next question. The flexibility of everyone, yourself, staff, to continue learning while all this new stuff gets built.
There's a lot to say, so I'll try and maybe be somewhat concise. Okay. So right now we have currently our 7th through 12th graders are all in the current, what used to be the high school. Our 6th graders actually moved over to the elementary school temporarily. Right. Mm-hmm. They do go over, they have to walk over for band and for lunch, so there's a little bit of movement in that. A lot of teachers are sharing some different classroom spaces. So when a teacher might be on their planning time, another teacher has to go into that room. Right. Things like the conference room we were used to be in is now being used for students. Our library houses a couple different classes in an old computer lab and in some different places. So we are making it work, and I've just been really thrilled with our staff's flexibility and the kids and parents, and it's been a lot smoother transition than it could have been.
And talk about when's the last time that I know you probably, because the location of all the buildings are all right here on this north side of Sullivan, north side. And what's it like to be back in this building and be? I mean, it's
so the beauty Sullivan has a lot of advantages. One of them is we have always been on one campus essentially. As a superintendent for the last 8 years, I can be in one building and go walk into any classroom within a few minutes. So I was at the elementary quite a bit before as well. I try to get over to each classroom once a week. So being over here as a centralized location is not that different, although it is a little different. I do get a few more hugs being primarily housed inside the in the elementary school, and it's been pretty good.
Okay, very good. Let's talk about, get an update. We last taped spring of 2023. Any new curriculum that you would like to highlight in the last 2 years? I mean, you'd like to think in the last 2 years, maybe something new has been added?
Biggest curricular, I like to focus on our career tech education. So that is an area that I think a lot of schools are focusing on. Right now, our FCS program, our Family Consumer Sciences, our enrollment has been very, very high. Part of the new building will include a new FCS lab, and we're very excited about that. Okay. Just for this next upcoming year, we're actually adding a third culinary arts class. We actually have culinary arts 1 and 2. We'll add another section of that. For our agriculture, we're adding a resource management course, and then for in some of our business class, we're adding additional computer applications courses. So I would say CTE has kind of been an area of focus in the last couple of years.
Fantastic. And before we highlight and talk about the construction work going on, one thing that you talked about the last time that we talked here is here at the elementary school. In fact, it's one of the new rooms that you talked about last time, adding some more classrooms. We're in one of them right now here at Sullivan Elementary School, and talk about that addition to this building.
So we added a 16 classroom elementary addition. Part of that is our school had been structured when I first started superintendent as a K-5 building, 6, 8, 9, 12. We ran out of room over here. Fifth grade for a few years, we're regularly housed inside our middle school. And we had a 5 through 8 building. Academically and curricularly, we felt like, and maturity, we felt like K-5 really is a better setup. And so this setup allows us to move fifth grade permanently back over here, have more space for some of our special education students, and have more space for our pre-K students. This, what we're in right now, is a fine arts room. We'll have art and music that are currently taught in here.
See a few sinks, so definitely got that ability for art. And pretty much what you said last time, but I'm glad you'd be able to reemphasize that, because that's the really new, cool addition to this particular building. All right, let's talk about the new Sullivan High School. It's in construction right now. We'll have some video of that as we're talking here. So you tore down the old Sullivan Middle School, which used to be the old Sullivan High School. Did I say that right?
That's correct.
Okay, very good. So I taped the City Spotlight episode last spring, and I got a little video of that as I talked with the chamber there. It's starting to look like a new building. What's it like to see a new building be built from the ground up, and you're in this spot and you probably take a look at it a little bit each day, a little bit more gets built?
Yes, it's obviously very exciting for the community, and you first got to thank all the people who came before. Our previous middle school building lasted 107 years. To get 107 years of education out of a building really is fantastic, and we're looking forward to getting 107 years out of our new construction as well. Watching it go up has been great. Sometimes the little things that really seem like it really comes along. When we actually got some door frames installed in the classrooms, you wouldn't think a door frame going in a room would make it look so much more like an actual room versus a construction project.
A little bit more closure.
But there's a little more closure there, and we're starting to get a lot of the first floor classrooms are painted, so it's really come along. When we get our last bit of steel in to get our gym enclosed, we will really feel like we're pretty close.
Kind of has a bit of a diagonal look there as you go from to the south part there, all along the street there. From the art drawing that you gave me last time, and that we'll have again here for people to look at to see what the finished product will be. Obviously, there looks like there's going to be some nice parking available for there, and obviously a new gym.
Yes.
And so, as we were talking right before the record button was hit, you're going to have multiple gyms available to use for a variety of things, not just athletics.
Sure. So the piece on gymnasiums is really, for a district our size, having 3 functional gymnasiums is pretty essential. And we had 3 previously, but our previous middle school was 107 years old and looked a little bit like that. So the neat thing about this new gymnasium is we'll have a walking track above, so things like, of course, can be walking. There'll be some rooms on the second floor where the bleachers extend back. You can do things like drop batting cages. So during both PE or during extracurricular activities such as baseball, softball, cheer, a gym, a lot of times people think of it as a place to host basketball events, but we'll actually be able to have multiple extracurricular and curricular activities take place there.
All right, very good. For those of the people that are watching this episode here at the beginning of 2025 that didn't see the last taping we talked, give us a Cliff Notes version of why this was needed and what this will provide for the Sullivan community.
Sure. So again, I said previously our old middle school building was 107 years old. Architect estimates were about $10 million in needed repairs to that building. And so we put a referendum on the ballot in June of 2022. About 63-37, the voters approved with a pretty significant majority. They said, this is our proposal, this is what we want to do, and they said, that's what we want. As far as better classroom spaces, better special areas such as our FCS kitchen, our show choir room, not to mention regular classrooms and gyms. So there's a lot of academic benefits that we'll see and we'll be able to bring to our students and our community.
Is there a particular part of the building, forward thinking here, kind of a sidebar question, is there a particular part of the building that you're really looking forward to seeing complete, whether it be just the whole thing on the outside or like the finished gym? Is there one aspect of the new structure that you're like really looking forward to seeing?
I'm looking forward to all of it. I was a former chemistry teacher, so obviously the science labs are kind of fun for me personally, but really just getting those classrooms done and envision the kids going there. And then the FCS show choir room, those special classrooms as well. I'm just looking forward to envisioning kids in there.
Okay, so we're taping here January 24th, 2025. I got to ask you, what's the target goal for completion?
If everything continues on schedule, we will start the next school year in August of 2025 in our new building.
That's got to be it's right around the corner. I mean, I know you got to finish this school year, but we're talking within this calendar year. And I was joking with you before we hit the record button. These things don't just pop up in every community every other decade. This is going to be a wow moment for the community.
This will be the community is putting a large investment into education here at Sullivan, and we are very appreciative of that, and our students are very appreciative of that.
Ted, we appreciate your time here on this program, coming on City Spotlight for another time, talking Sullivan Schools. You are coming up on 8 years of leading this school district. You have helped lead the school district through a pandemic, and a new building is being built. You, your staff, and all the students that walk these hallways, a lot has transpired. What are you most proud of over these last 8 or so years?
The desire of every staff member, from teachers to paraprofessionals to bus drivers to cafeteria workers, every staff member putting students first, being flexible with whether that is pandemic education, whether that is transition construction, the fact that I really believe that we have staff who wants to see what's best for kids.
And I almost forgot one other new thing, since a lot of things have happened since I last taped with you. You obviously have a new scoreboard video board at the football field, and that looks shiny and new as well.
It does look very nice, and really the credit for that goes to our Boosters Club. Our boosters almost entirely self-funded that entire project, and it really does pop, and it's nice for both football, for track events, and we've even shown some different things on there for kids during a school day. So it's a neat feature.
Got used well this past football season. You guys had a successful football season, if I recall.
It sure did.
Ted, anything else you'd like to add as far as the rest of this school year? What are you looking forward to with the rest of this particular school year finishing off strong?
Without trying to wish away the current situation for the future, we had a 2-year transition phase. We are over a year and a half into that transition phase. I want to make sure that our staff continues to focus on the goals of everyday education, but part of it too is we're just excited to see kind of what that future holds.
Well, we appreciate the time of Dr. Ted Walk, Superintendent of Sullivan Schools. We thank you for coming on, and we definitely look forward to coming back later this year for the opening of the new Sullivan High School.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. Thank you. And coming up next here on City Spotlight, we'll change communities, and we'll have a feature on the Dr. Charles M. Wright House in Altamont. But first, let's take a look at some of the upcoming activities going on in the communities of Sullivan and Altamont.
Altamont is probably very similar to other small towns founded in the Midwest in the latter half of the 19th century, with stories of pioneers and railroads in life in rural America during the time of westward expansion. But since 1889, Altamont has had a 18-room home built by one of the town's first doctors that was a marvel for its time, and which today provides visitors with a glimpse into the past. Charles M. Wright was born in Ohio in 1834, and after graduating medical school in Philadelphia in 1857, he migrated west, buying a stagecoach ticket as far as his money would take him, which was to the central part of Effingham County in an area then known as Ewington. In 1870, Dr. Wright moved again and settled in Altamont, moving into a house that was on present-day West Washington Street. In 1871, Dr. Wright purchased 5 acres on the north edge of Altamont and would later expand the property to 27 acres, which would be bordered on the west by the railroad and on the north by Union Cemetery. In 1874, construction of a home began on the acreage on North Main. In 1888, Dr. Wright decided to build a new single-family residence. The family's existing 2-story frame home, built in 1874, was moved from the site directly east across Main Street to the corner lot where it remains today. It would later be a home to one of his 4 daughters, Lotta, and her husband, George Dial. The Wright family continued to live in the frame home while the new brick home was under construction. Once the old house was moved, construction began on the current structure in May 1889. It was a project so large that 2 special sheds were built on the property as workshops for the craftsmen who would spend the next several months building what was surely one of the largest and most modern residences for miles around. The materials, labor, and furnishings for the new home total approximately $35,000. Present-day inflation calculators tell us that that would be about the equivalent of $1.25 million today. Before actual construction on the Wright house began, though, Dr. Wright thoroughly researched building styles, furnishings, and materials using bound volumes of Scientific American and other periodicals. The final design was by Charles Spillman of Edwardsville, Illinois. Chosen to bring Spillman's design to life, the contractor selected for the project was named Charles Hanker of nearby Toledo, Illinois, in Cumberland County. The house itself is an Italianate L-shaped 2-story or asymmetrical structure. Bricks make up both its external and internal walls, which vary from 8 to 13 inches thick, and which are laid in the American bond fashion. There are over 400,000 bricks in the house, and they cost 2.5 cents apiece. They were made by the St. Louis Hydraulic Pressed Brick Company and shipped to Altamont by train for the project. There are stone quoins at the exterior corners of the home, which has a half-hipped dormer breaking into a general hipped roof. The roof consists of multicolored slate shingles. There are pedimented dormers with a 2/2 pane configuration located on the north, west, and south sides of the roof. A rectangular porch covering the front doors is located on the south side of the southeast corner of the house. Pedimented roofs cover the north and west doors. The oak-framed windows are in a 1/1 pane configuration, and the external window hoods are segmental galvanized iron caps. The double front doors are of cherry wood and have rectangular beveled panels with other incised and rectangular turned carvings. Above the front doors is a transom with multicolored glass panes around the border. The name Wright is etched in the clear center pane of the front door above the doors. The rear door on the north side of the house is also of cherry, has a similar transom, but it has 1889 etched into its clear center panel. The house has 3 chimneys located in the south, north, and west sections of the roof. The chimneys vent the 4 functional fireplaces and the central heating system. Decorative exterior elements include a bracketed cornice and twin 2-story bay windows in the southwest quadrant of the house. The interior of the Wright house has 18 furnished rooms, including 7 bedrooms. 2 of those bedrooms are located at the top of the back or kitchen stairs and were originally occupied by the hired help. In the earliest days of the home, a hired man would care for outdoor property maintenance, work the garden, and care for any livestock, while a hired girl would cook for the family and perform housekeeping functions. Upon entering the double front doors, there is a long central hallway with oak flooring. A cherry staircase on the west side of the hallway leads upstairs. There are 4 functional fireplaces on the first floor, located in the living room, parlor, dining room, and library. The fireplaces in the parlor and the library have white Italian marble mantels and colorful ceramic tile around the fireboxes. The overmantels in these two rooms are of cherry wood and have beveled mirrors. The fireplace mantel in the living room is made of Tennessee brown marble with no overmantel. The fireplace in the dining room has a brown Tennessee marble mantel, colorful ceramic tiles around the firebox, and an oak overmantel with beveled mirrors. There are 4 non-functional fireplace mantels in the home. 3 are located upstairs in bedrooms and 1 in the central downstairs bedroom. They were never intended to be fireplaces, but rather decorative elements in these rooms. All of the woodwork in the eastern section of the house is cherry, while all of the woodwork in the western section of the house is Wisconsin red oak. The original wallpaper in several rooms has been replaced with patterned wallpaper close to the original, using period photographs for reference. During the 1930s, the Wright family redecorated for a more modern look. At the time, the original wool floral carpeting was replaced with oak hardwood flooring throughout most of the house. Only the northeast corner upstairs bedroom has the original carpeting remaining in place. The dining room has hard maple and walnut parquet flooring, and visitors will notice that Dr. Wright had the letter W put in the floor in front of the dining room fireplace. The light fixtures of brass with porcelain overlay replaced the Victorian cast brass originals. Each bedroom has its own oak or cherry East Lake bedroom suite, and other than items placed or changes made for safety or security, everything in the house to the day belonged to one of the 3 people who have lived here since 1889. Designed to be the most modern home possible, it would have numerous firsts for a home in the area, including running water. The home had a modern gas lighting system which forced gasoline vapor to various fixtures throughout the house. The house is and was still heated with a system of radiators which circulate heated water throughout the house via a boiler fueled by soft coal, though today the boiler is fueled by natural gas. The 4 fireplaces on the first floor were not the primary sources of heat. Charles III said once that he only remembers fires in the fireplaces at Christmas when he was a boy. When the home was built in 1889, son Charles II was 10 years old. 2 older sisters, Florence and Ada, were already married and out of the house. 2 other daughters, Lotta and Mabel, remained at home and when the house was new. In 1892, Mabel graduated from Altamont Community High School in the first class ever to graduate from the school. Charles II graduated from Altamont Community High School in 1896 and then entered a 2-year pre-medical studies program at Austin College in Effingham. Dr. Wright would pass away in 1898, leaving behind at home his widow Mattie and the daughter Mabel, while Charles II was attending medical school at Washington University in St. Louis. By 1900, Altamont's population was 1,335 people, and 2 years later, newly graduated from medical school, Charles Wright II began practicing medicine in his father's old office on North Main. By 1907, Charles II had married Miss Ella May Hobbs of Oneida, Illinois. In 1912, Charles Wright III was born. 4 years later, in 1916, the young family would move a block north, into the home where Charles II grew up, joining his mother and his sister Mabel. The 5 of them would live in the large home for the next 9 years until 1925, when Mattie Wright would pass away at the age of 80. In 1930, Charles III graduated from Altamont High School, and he would next attend his father's alma mater, Washington University in St. Louis. When World War II came, Charles III would enter the U.S. Army Air Corps and serve from 1942 to 1946. After his service, Charles III returned to Shell Oil, while his parents and Aunt Mabel remained at his family's home in Altamont. Mabel Wright would pass away in 1953 at the age of 78. Dr. Wright would sell the northernmost 7 acres of the property in 1957, and in 1960, Mrs. Wright would pass away. She and Dr. Wright had been married 53 years. While Charles III continued to work for Shell, his father, Charles II, retired from medical practice in 1967. In his 65 career as a doctor in Altamont, Charles II had delivered over 1,000 babies. Dr. Wright would pass away in April of 1970, 4 days shy of his 91st birthday. And at various times in his life, he had been an Altamont City Councilman, the city's health commissioner, the school board president, and the treasurer of the Altamont Agricultural Fair. In 1971, Charles III ordered the building that had been his father and grandfather's medical office for over 100 years be torn down. Before the building was razed, however, numerous articles from a century of medical practice were moved to the house on North Main. Also in 1971, Charles III sold 10.4 acres on the western edge of the property to the Altamont School District for the purpose of potentially building a new grade school. But in 1975, a new school was built across town, and this school was never built on the former Wright property. Today that is known as the Wright Agricultural Plot, and it is farmed by the Altamont High School chapter of the FFA. From 1970 to 1977, the big home on North Main Street sat empty, until after 40 years as an attorney, Charles III retired and moved to his family home. In retirement, Charles III would spend time pursuing his lifelong passion of reading, amassing a collection of over 7,200 books, which still remain in the home today. And on occasion, he would give visitors tours of his home. In 1981, Charles III wrote a history of the house and its significance, and succeeded in having it listed on the National Register of Historic Places in 1986. Charles Wright III would die in 2001. He had never married and he never had children. But he did have the foresight to create a trust which would preserve his family's home for future generations to admire and enjoy. A local financial institution was named as the trustee. Since 2003, the Dr. Charles M. Wright House has operated as a not-for-profit private house museum to showcase its beauty, its numerous original features, which were at the time of its construction the edge of modern convenience, and maintain this singular home on Altamont's north side. A volunteer community advisory board works with the trustees to raise funds to preserve the home. Tours are offered on Sundays throughout the summer and at other times by appointment. We hold one major fundraiser a year, a wine and music event in September, where guests enjoy assorted adult beverages outside while also enjoying live music in the shady environment that is the property's remaining 5 acres. It is unlikely that when moving to Altamont in 1870, Dr. Wright would have thought a home that he would build would remain over 135 years later. Nor could he have known that his son and grandson would live in and maintain that same home. Altamont is fortunate that Charles Wright III recognized the importance and the uniqueness of his family's home and left it in such a circumstance that it could be maintained for future generations. And for that, we are truly grateful.
It's almost impossible to imagine life without internet today. It keeps us connected to work, school, and loved ones, no matter where they are. Fidium Fiber Internet now serves over 1 million locations, providing reliable, consistent service that keeps these connections strong. From vibrant cities to quiet rural areas, fiber broadband is a key driver of economic growth. Fidium is dedicated to supporting communities and enhancing lives through this essential technology. Learn more at fidiumfiber.com.